Hey, fans of the movie,
Joel, fix it in post.
I'll fix
take
it.
two, take two. Hello, fans of the Marvel Movie Club. I changed it because today we're going at Joel's insistence. We're reviewing Moon Knight. You know it is.
I know it is. We started this doing the Marvel stuff. We should fit them in.
I'm Frank Gaffney. Here with me is Amy Goldman and Titawada. Twata. What's her name?
Tawatit?
Tawat Tat.
Or Tet.
What?
Toweret or Tawatet.
Joel Fenster, Mark Wotitz with his 2 Oscar Isaacs. I wish I had 2 Oscars. And Nan Gelman is joining us as a special guest today, straight from Minnesota. Where does she live?
Michigan.
Michigan.
Welcome back, Nan.
Yes,
Thank you.
Welcome
Thanks.
back.
Joel, I was
It's
going to
good
ask you
see
why.
guys.
And good to see you. I'm glad you combed your hair. All right, Joel.
Yes.
I was going to ask you why you wanted us to watch this, but you just said it. So there.
I've been saying that all along.
But now I think it's interesting now that it used to be the Marvel television universe, and now they're like, no, it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe television division.
No, it's always been
Whatever
the
the hell.
Marvel Cinema. All the stuff on Disney Plus has always been the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, we never called it that.
No, you made that up, Frank. MTU.
Made that
which I
up.
thought was
Oh,
very
MCU?
cute.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm adorable. All right.
You are adorable.
All right. So at the very
Matter of
beginning,
opinion.
What?
He said he was adorable. I said matter of opinion.
Matter
and it
of
happens
his
to
own
be-
opinion.
Yeah, that's right. It happens to be the opinion I am very fond of. Okay, so this whole thing starts with Ethan Hawke. Goodness.
Hack. Wow. Now we know how you really feel about him.
How much have you had to drink?
It all starts with Ethan Hawke, although we don't know it's him at first, taking Annie Lennox way too literally by walking on broken glass. And then Omar's English accent, that's rubbish. I'm sorry. Rubbish. So, okay,
Did you
so
just call him Omar?
did I
Yes.
say Omar?
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac. I think I need to take a nap. Okay, so he's a mild-mannered gift shop worker at the museum, and conveniently, right, he knows Egyptian lore. And for some reason, Stephen, that's who he is, he becomes aware that he does things in the middle of the night that he can't remember, kind of like a werewolf, right? Even chaining himself to the bed like a werewolf. And one day I was like, he's listening to these tapes so he stay awake so he won't fall asleep. But the last place you should be listening to them is while you're in bed.
Yeah.
Hello, sit up, do something. It was very cute when he said, oh, Avatar is blue people. Love that film. I think 3 out of 5 of us would disagree. It was very confusing in the beginning, but I think that's the great part of the storytelling here, because you're having no knowledge of Moon Knight, except Joel, who probably read them in the 70s, 80s, whatever. You had no idea who he was, where he was, why he was doing the things he was doing. So it was confusing, but it kept my attention. And of course, like a big star entrance at the end of episode 1, he turns around and Moon Knight. That was fun. And then episode 2 tried to explain a little more of it, but there were a lot of questions coming even out of the explanations. And then they finally have a conversation about what's going on, and that whole them talking to each other and the psychological play between the two of them. That was a lot of fun, but that jackal dog CGI was just awful.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I love that the MCU is in some way trusting us to make this journey and not dumbing it down so everybody would get it. You know, they're kind of elevating things by delving into this. What is it?
Dissociative personality disorder.
Identity.
Yeah.
Identity.
Identity, sorry.
Identity
Because,
disorder.
yeah, it used to be called multiple personality.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, Sybilitis.
Yeah,
And episode 3, he wakes up in Egypt. And for me, episode 3 really was the slowest and the least interesting of the 6 episodes. So the tables get turned a little bit in that Mark is now the one missing things because Steven's taking a more active role in things. And it becomes a little Indiana Jones here. But the other thing I thought was interesting was Thanos versus Khonshu. So Thanos is just wipe out 50% and that's it. But Khonshu is wiping out anyone who has or will commit an evil deed. So I thought, oh, that's nice.
No.
Khonshu is only who has, Amit is who will. That's the difference between the two. Amit will kill babies knowing that in the future they're going to be bad. Khonshu was waiting to see if they're going to actually do the bad deed, and then he kills them.
Oh, okay. But if it's preordained, it's preordained. Anyway, I like this premise much better. Let's kill all those bad people. That was great. And was the whole thing Khonshu was trying to get back in with the Egyptian gods, like he had fallen out of favor or some shit?
Well,
Is that
anyway,
true?
Is that true?
Yeah.
But Oscar Isaac or Omar Isaac is really great. And I could tell which one was Steven without even hearing his stupid accent. I mean, look at it right there. He has 2 different hairdos.
Yeah.
I read that he asked to film the different characters on different days, and that's why they used the mirrors to have them talk to each other.
Yeah. They talk about that in the assembled episode.
Okay, yeah, I didn't watch that yet.
And that his brother was his double stand-in
Yep.
when he was in the same
Yeah.
scene. So, and of course, as I ask in every one of these things, where the hell are the Avengers when you need them? But the Egyptian stuff was very interesting. I enjoyed that very much. And so, of course, there's the girl interest, which I did not really like her. Her name was Layla, and every time I heard it, I kept thinking, "You got me on my knees, Layla." So I kept thinking, and then what? How did she become a superhero with the bird wings and all of that? Did we have to have that, Joel?
She became the hippo.
Yeah.
Joel,
Well,
is that from the comic books? Did you read these?
yes and no. The Scarlet Scarab, which is what she becomes, is typically a male superhero with a completely different background. But if you watch the assembled episode, they'll explain why they took the character in that direction. And I think it makes perfect sense. They were really looking for, they didn't quite know what to do with Layla towards the end, and realized they had the perfect opportunity to create an Egyptian superhero that people could look up to. So
That we didn't need.
that's well,
So she's an avatar of that hippo.
yes.
Amy's hippo. Okay, and the little girl, please. Are you an Egyptian superhero? Come on. It was annoying. All right, and but the thing I loved even more about this show was that you didn't have to know any other MCU product, and it's not referencing anything that's going to be coming up, except for Moon Knight 2, I would assume. So there, so it wasn't like, okay, this whole hour is a setup for the next Doctor Strange movie. So that was brilliant. I love that. And then we land in the psychiatric hospital, and that was the best episode. The 5th episode was just brilliant. Asylum. And that's where the split personality thing really came into play. And I love the whole, even like it's like almost metaphysical, if that's what I mean, how they have to merge together and become one to move on, for his soul to pass. But here's my question. So they can no longer be 2 damaged parts of one man, so they need each other to be whole, and one gets thrown into the sand and one moves on. But I want to talk about that mid-credit sequence. Because now if there's a third personality, he's not balanced anymore.
Correct.
So was this, he just thought of this new personality just today? So then there was always this third personality? So then he wasn't balanced. So that whole episode 5 is bullshit.
Very true.
Potentially, yes.
And
You
the
consider
finale,
that a major plot hole?
that's what I'm saying.
It's not so much a plot hole as it is taking something that's integral to the comics and setting it up for whatever's coming next.
Hmm.
So
Okay. And then, and I even like that he didn't kill Harrow, which allowed Mark to choose his love for Steven instead. And that was great. And now this is what I wrote, and he can serve himself instead of Khonshu now. That was my interpretation.
Yeah,
So,
lower your police radio.
is that what we're hearing?
Yeah.
I thought it was Moon Knight getting a call. So even though Joel forced me to watch this damn show, I really enjoyed it. I'm giving it 3.5 stars. I think it was one of my favorites. All right. So Aang, do you agree?
Yeah, I wasn't looking very forward to it when I saw Annie. I think either I asked her or she posted in our little text group how confused she was after 2 episodes. I was like, oh God, another show to be totally confused about. I'm gonna hate it. And then, as you know, I had that dream the other night before I watched it, and in my dream I loved it. So I watched like the first 3 episodes the other night, and I was like, all right, I have no idea what's going on. I read my IMDb synopsis and it helped, but I was like, eh. And then, as I said to Frank in a text, episode 5, just 4 stars right off the bat. And I watched episode 5 again yesterday before I watched 6, which I also love. 5 and 6 are so good. Some of the best TV I've seen in a long time. And just throw every fucking Emmy at Oscar Isaac. I can't believe how good he was.
But I want to say about Oscar Isaac is that, I mean, get over yourself, girl, because having each character have a different accent when he's not British by any means. It was just, oh, please, you just want to do an accent, Meryl.
He said in one of the IMDb trivias I read, he said the reason why he did it, and the fans immediately gave him backlash. And he was like, that's what he was going for. It was like there was a ridiculousness about it that he wanted to do. I thought it was cute, and it was very, very different. You were never going to be confused as to who was talking.
Right.
I thought he did such a good job. What, Joel?
I think that's definitely part of it, is to, it was another way of him being able to differentiate the characters for himself. Because when he was on set as Steven, he was, even when he wasn't
He stayed in character.
He stayed in character, and he's not a method actor. He doesn't normally do that, but it was easier for him to do that, and keep.
But I'm saying his performance was so strong, he did not need the accents.
He didn't know that at the time, so.
Yeah. And it was so interesting to me. There were so many times where he was performing in front of a green screen, performing to nothing, and he had to act so bizarrely. Just as a person, as an actor, thinking, oh my God, I have to do this. This is going to be so embarrassing to do. And he just threw caution to the wind and did it, and just throw every award at him. My God, he was good. And I remember learning about Egyptian gods and Greek gods in school, and I hated it all. And now I really want to go back and study Egyptian gods and Egyptology. I loved it. That's
funny that you say that, Amy, because that's one of the few historical stuff that I remember studying, and I loved it. I'm not a big museum guy at all, but whenever I go to the museum, I go to see the Egyptian part. I love it. So this was fun.
Yeah, just wonderful, just beautiful. Oh, and just interesting fact that you guys read, except I don't know, Frank, if you did, that he's neighbors with Ethan Hawke. He met him at a coffee shop in New York City during the COVID, and he said, you should play this part. And they were like, give it to him. So I thought that was fun.
The showrunner had already been in the process of setting up a project with Ethan Hawke that got
right
for a few things.
Yes.
So yeah.
And honestly, in the first episode, all I kept thinking was, he looked so much like a famous actress. I got to figure out who it was, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I saw the credits. It was Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him. I just thought he looked like some woman that we really know. Yeah, no, he looks like Ethan Hawke.
It was Tilda Swinton again.
Yeah. And the final thing is I love that Stephen was created just to remember the good things. I thought that was incredible. I kind of wish I had that disorder, so I had somebody to just remember the good things. So I just learned a lot from it. I loved it. I wish I could give it the 4 stars that episodes 5 and 6 deserve and should have. So the other ones will knock it down to 3.25. But I really loved it. 3 stars.
Are you
No.
saying 3.25?
Yeah.
So you think those first 3 episodes could have been condensed?
Yeah, I thought there was a little bit much going on. I was like, all right, but I think I need to rewatch it. And I did start rewatching 4. I don't know why I went 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, 6, half of 4. I think I just need to restart. Especially it's a little bit like Breaking Bad and Lost now, watching it from the beginning, which really all these MCU shows are. You learn so much, and in the end, you're like, oh, now it all falls into place.
Nan, did it all fall into place for you?
I don't know what Joel and Mark thought, but I'm gonna kind of be the lone, I guess, maybe dissent here. As an actor, Oscar is not my favorite. I didn't like him in Star Wars. I genuinely thought he's talented, but I didn't like him in this. I felt he was stiff. I liked him better.
I wish he was stiff.
Ah!
I'm not going to go there. This is recording. I thought his English character I liked better than when he played Stephen.
From Chicago.
Yes. Just it was a little more nerdy and real. But it was hard for me to get into him as the hero. Because I don't think he's relatable. I think he's stiff. So I thought he did a good job. I just don't like him as an actor. I agree with Amy as far as Ethan Hawke. I watched the first episode going, I know that guy. Who is it? And it wasn't until the end when I also saw the credits and said, oh my God, that's Ethan Hawke. I thought he was phenomenal in the role. He flipped. He was this sleazy kind of snake oil salesman, trying to convince people to his cause. And even as the psychiatrist, there was something kind of snake oilish about him. I liked in the hospital, they had little pieces of Egyptian artifacts. If you looked at his desk, there was the pyramid, and one of the patients had the stuffed animal that he was trying to sell in London as, part of the museum.
Well, yeah, I mean, I loved how every single thing in his real life was in the imagination. I thought that was great.
Yes, I thought it was great. What I really liked about it was they dealt with mental illness. And you don't realize in the first episode that you're dealing with somebody that has this disorder until a little bit later on. I thought the scenes in the hospital where he's with Ethan Hawke were a little long and could have been cut. The theme of, one person trying to kill everybody who might do something bad or is preordained to do something bad is fairly common through the MCU. If you looked at Captain America, that was the same theme with what was the name of the evil organization?
Hydra.
Hydra, was going to kill everybody who they thought was. So that's a fairly common theme.
Nan, it would certainly make your job easier.
No, that would put me out of work. I liked Contra. Contra, even though he was a god, was very was humanistic. I mean, I could relate to his struggles, and I really liked the ending in the car when he kills what's her face. I'm sorry, I'm weird, but Stephen wouldn't do it, so he did it. And he hired somebody to do it. It was just really a slick ending. I really enjoyed the Egyptian parts. I love Egyptology. I always have. I always studied Greek and Roman god. I mean, I just love all of that stuff. So wasn't my favorite, but I'd probably give it 2.5 stars.
Mark. tell her
Sorry,
she's-
Amy.
Tell her she's wrong.
No, that's her opinion, obviously.
Tell her her
This-
opinion is wrong.
There's definitely going to be some repetition here because you guys have already said a lot of what I was going to say. This wasn't my favorite. Hawkeye still stands as my favorite Marvel series. I would say by far, but it wasn't perfect. But I did really enjoy this. Just like Shang-Chi, I came into this as a newbie because I've heard of Moon Knight, but I've never read one comic, so I didn't know anything about any of the characters, anything. So I was definitely just as confused as everyone else. I loved Oscar Isaac in this, just like you guys. Well, 2 out of 3 of you guys said. I definitely think he deserves an Emmy. I love the first episode. I know everyone keeps talking about number 5, and everyone, not just this group, but I've read articles about how it's like the greatest hour of TV. I didn't love it that much, I actually rewatched the entire thing twice. So I should say I watched the entire thing twice, and the second watching was definitely easier. All right, obviously I was less confused, and I just really go back to that first episode, loving pretty much everything in it. Donna, the boss, I thought she was hilarious. Making Steven a vegan too was perfect. I loved the reference to Avatar as well in the first episode. And the end of the episode with him being revealed, walking toward the camera was a great ending of an episode.
Yeah, but weren't you thinking the same thing? Everybody, when they were talking about being an avatar, weren't you thinking the same thing?
I was, but it was great that he said it in his bumbling,
no, it's
goofy
funny.
way. Yeah, it's fair.
It's
Perfect.
good that they referenced it. Yeah.
Disney has to keep plugging that film because half the people are going to go like, I don't want to see a second film anyway. It's a bazillion years old, and I didn't care the first time.
So they already started product placement. Is that
That's all it is.
Exactly.
Product placement.
There you
Mark,
go.
what is the ending that you just said you loved? 'Cause I don't
when
remember.
he beats the shit out of the dog in the bathroom, and then he turns toward the camera as Moon Knight. It's the first time you really see him. You don't see it; it's kind of out of frame, and then all of a sudden he turns and you see Moon Knight walking right at
That's
you,
what I
and
said.
it just
Star
ends.
entrance.
Yeah.
Star entrance.
Okay.
So my question is, with Ethan Hawke putting the glass in his shoes, was that just supposed to be his sacrifice? What was anybody know the reasoning behind that? Because I don't.
Nan, you look like you're going to say something. So
No, I'm sorry. The only thing when I saw that, I thought of Hinduism and certain religions where they walk on glass and they walk on, hot coals, and they don't burn their feet. It's kind of a self-awareness type of.
I think that's definitely part of it. I also think partially it's a penance. He has his own sins that he's trying to absolve himself of. And
I think also at the same time, it perfectly sets up his character because you're thinking, God, this guy's weird.
And apparently that whole opening was originally not part of the first episode. It was part of the second episode, and they juggled it around. So, and I think
What is the penance that the doctor needs? Isn't the doctor in real life a good guy?
Well, he was the Fist of Khonshu before Mark, Stephen, Jake were. So
Right.
they made that pretty obvious. So there's definitely some sort of guilt over what he had done prior to all that.
Right. As the avatar for Khonshu.
Yeah.
Mark, please continue.
I love the way the blackouts occurred to show the change in personalities. And again, I got to go back to the first episode with the Scarab when he wakes up there on the hillside, and then the whole fight with when he first sees Harrow and how he refused to give him the Scarab with his hand going all over it. It was all that was fantastic for me. F. Mary Abraham as Khonshu was great. Anybody
But
else?
I hated
Love his voice. Love his voice.
Hated it.
Really, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah.
And that's usually the type of voice that I love. It's a beautiful, resonating, deep voice, but it was I just thought so over the top and corny it became to me.
Okay. Now I know Joel will know this, but did anybody else catch the mentioning of Madripoor in there? And where else have you heard that?
Oh, somewhere in one of our movies or something. I don't remember hearing the
What?
name.
One movie and one TV show already. Well, it's not. I'm not going to make you whatever. It's mentioned
Wait,
in.
isn't that Tom Cruise's real name? Tom McAvoy?
Madripoor. Whatever. It was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier and in Shang-Chi.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
and it's
definitely
from
remember hearing it.
the comics. So that was the only real tie-in that they had to the rest of the Avenger world there. What else? Yeah, I didn't. The Ned Flanders reference.
Oh my God, Flanders, that was great.
I figured you guys would love that.
Disney and Fox.
Anyway, I kept calling Amit "damn it" in my head at least. And that's it. The whole later Gators. It was very adorable, but still not. The ending. I know what Amy, you saying the first few episodes were a little bit too long. I thought the last two episodes were a little bit too short. Kind of just wrapped up quickly. So for me, it's 3 1/3 stars.
Oh God. So you actually gave it more stars than I did.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It just wasn't. It could have been. I really enjoyed it, and then the ending, I was a little bit dissatisfied the first go around. The second time, I enjoyed it a little bit more.
Well, I would like to up mine to 3 1/3. I forgot that you can do a third.
Fighter.
You can do whatever you
Fucking
want.
work. You can do anything between 3 and 4.
That's true.
Okay, Joel.
So
Joel, why did you force us to watch the show?
I've already told you several times. We started doing this film club because of the MCU. Why are we leaving things out now? That's why I forced us to watch this.
I thoroughly agree.
We didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, first of all, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Is tangentially related to the MCU, and you're dealing with 7 seasons. If we had done that, we'd still be in the middle of last year's watching at this point. Same thing with Daredevil and all the Netflix shows and all the other stuff. I figure at this point going forward,
Now Disney owns all of them now, right?
Disney does own all of them now.
Right, they're taking it away from Netflix and putting it on Disney Plus.
Yes, so theoretically you could watch them, but I wouldn't say you necessarily have to go back and watch any of them. They're not like Moon Knight. Most of that stuff is not really connected in ways that you would see or know. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is at the beginning, but then it kind of veers off in its own direction.
But even that, it was connected at the beginning to the movies that were happening then.
Exactly.
Not now.
Right, correct.
All right, anyway,
anyway,
give us your review of
so,
Moon Knight. Now, you read the comic books?
Well, contrary to popular belief, yes and no. Moon Knight was not something I read regularly. I read Moon Knight comic books when there was a character that I was more interested in crossing over with him, or if he was involved in a storyline that involved other characters that I really liked, usually like Doctor Strange and things of that nature.
Hey, there, I see you have a werewolf there in the background.
Yes, so Werewolf by Night is actually the first, the 15th issue of that comic book was the first appearance of Moon Knight, and he was essentially
that's funny.
a werewolf hunter. So when you brought that up at the beginning of this, I was like, Frank kind of hit the nail on the head. In fact, there's a really cool Easter egg in that first episode. There's a QR code that's on the screen during one of the scenes, and if you actually scanned it, it would send you to a free copy of that issue. So that's kind of a neat way of tying things together. In the comics, when Moon Knight started, he was a little more than a Batman clone, to be quite honest. You had, Mark Spector was like the billionaire playboy part, and Moon Knight was the Batman part, and then, Steven Taylor was more of, Bruce Wayne has another alias in the comic books, Matches Malone. He was like the guy that would go and infiltrate mobs and get information from people without being either Batman or Bruce Wayne. And so Steven Taylor kind of fell into that category a little bit. So did Jake Lockley, was like their driver. And as the comic book went on and evolved and different creators came in to put their spin on it, is how we got into the personality disorder aspect, that these three creations or aliases of his are actually individuals that live within his own mind and aren't aware of each other. So it took,
And this was in the 1980s then?
the original stuff was in the late 70s, early 80s. I think the personality disorder stuff didn't come in until the 90s, most likely. I'm not 100% sure on that, because as I said, I only started reading runs of Moon Knight much later.
Can you ask one of your other personalities?
They don't talk to me anymore, so they're fed up with me. But one of the things, there's many things I liked about this, and this will be some repeats. The fact that this is the first one of the Disney Plus shows that isn't connected to anything else so far. You know, everything else was either a character we've already seen in a movie, or an expansion of somebody. Here, this is completely original. You're starting from scratch with him. We're not entirely sure where in the timeline this takes place, but it definitely feels like it's more in the modern, it's like sometime after Shang-Chi or something like that, or around the same time. It kind of is taking place. It's definitely phase 4. But it builds itself nicely. I think the first couple of episodes having that confusion and mystery helps it. It's one of the things they talked about during in the assembled episode is starting the story with Steven and not Mark, even though Mark is the strong one, the one that was always behind the costume and the mask. Starting it with Steven gives us the same intro because he doesn't know what's going on. So and I think that works brilliantly for the story. I liked where it went. There's a couple of points where I was like, all right, this is, how is this going to pay off? Where is this going to pay off? And I'm not sure certain things did actually pay off at the end. This is the first one where I was like, you know what, this could have used another episode or so, even though a couple of them were a little confusing in spots. I would have liked to see a little more of it. To let it expand itself a little bit, to get some stuff in. I think setting us up with Jake at the end is interesting, but it's one of those things. So far, everybody is on record as there's nothing to follow this up with yet. So it's kind of like, well, that sucks. Obviously, it'll happen, but when is the question? And I think that's part of the problem, that we get invested in some of these characters, and then it's going to be 2 or 3 years before we see them again. But I'm giving it 3.5. I enjoyed it. I need to see it again. I did not have a chance. We watched it weekly as it came out, and I haven't had a chance to sit down and plow through the whole thing in one shot.
Mark was able to watch it twice.
Well, Mark's not directing a show with 30 people, and whose wife is also costuming the show with 60 different characters. And
just bring your iPad with you and watch it while they're rehearsing.
Yes, that's what I would do for my cast.
That's what I would do.
Anyway.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, Joel. And I'm glad you made us watch it. I enjoyed it as well.
Good. The next one
so
too.
Annie couldn't be here today because she's having the adventure of a lifetime. Let me get to her thing. So she is actually being a Jedi Knight this weekend in Orlando. So she sent her notes. But she said, I like Moonlight, but I'm still a little confused. 3 stars. That's what she said. So I'm going to put her down. 3 stars. Annie.
I knew
But
I
aren't
would
we-
be up there by myself.
Aren't we all jealous that she's what she's doing right now? I would. All right. So is that it? Everybody's good?
Are we going to have the same fights and arguments when the next show drops too?
Shut up, Joel.
She-Hulk is coming out soon.
We got Miss Marvel, then She-Hulk.
Ms.
Oh.
Marvel.
Ms. Marvel is in June and She-Hulk's in August.
Cool.
Okay.
Right in between is Thor: Love and Thunder.
Perfect.
Perfect. All right. So next week we will be watching Save It Private Ryan to commemorate D-Day, which is next week as well, next Monday. And that's it. I'm Frank.
Take two.
Next week, we'll be watching Saving Private Ryan to commemorate D-Day because next Monday is June 6th. I'm Frank Gaffney. Go watch a movie.
His voice is changing.
And Amy,
Thank you for
Amy,
letting me
Also with
come
you.
in.
Thanks, Dan.
thanks, Dan.
It's time
Thank
to
you.
change. It's time to rearrange.